there's a difference between yields on paper in that you calculate using it like an Excel spreadsheet versus real world yields. And so I think that, we call them paper yields. A lot of times your first inclination is like, oh, I need to go to the high yield properties. And that's great. But I think the thing that is missed very often when people target that segment is the change in expense load that is associated with it. You might be dealing with maybe a lower quality tenant. Even though the house, costs less, it still costs 4 or 5,000, or maybe even 7,000 for an HVAC, maybe 10,000 for a roof. And even though that yield is very high, that lower rent makes it much more difficult to cover those fixed expenses and, potentially, more frequent turnover and things like that.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Pro Show. I'm your host, Erika, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Ted Farry, who's been crushing it in the real estate investing space. Ted, it's awesome to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
So let's dive right in, Ted. For those who aren't familiar with your world, give us the rundown. How did you get started in investing?
Yeah, as I was telling you before, it really came down to construction. One of the first things I did after finishing undergraduate was started a construction management business. Real estate, to be honest with you, I at that point, I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. I graduated undergraduate with a double major in math and philosophy and no job prospects. But anyways, I played football. And I remember one of these stories that one of these other defensive linemen told me when I was playing football is, hey, during the summer, go get a framing job because then you're getting paid for your workout. So I didn't play football that much longer, but that story rung true with me. And I, throughout college, had construction jobs. And, looking back, I landed such a great opportunity with a great luxury developer in the town where I'm from. And I went back and started working with him. He helped me start this construction management business. I worked to get my MBA at night while I was doing that, moved on to work with a production home builder. And from there, the housing market turned kind of quickly and had the opportunity to go work in structured finance and CMBS securitization. But the company I joined was Countrywide, so it didn't end up being the conservative choice out of all of it, and on some degree ended up having front row seats for financial meltdown. So great experience nonetheless. From there, kind of rode the market a little bit and went on to work in an analytics role with $1 billion MPL fund, Arch Bay Capital, priced out who knows how many billions of dollars of MPL loans. And as that business transition, I had another opportunity to get back into that physical side of real estate, which I started in. And I had this really awesome role where I traveled to every market across the country where we had major concentration of REO.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
And met all of the brokers that were listing our houses, and it enabled me to develop this network. And that has been so powerful for me as I then moved into single family rental and started to focus on acquisitions and buying single family properties to put in very large single family rental portfolios.
Yeah. Wow. That is quite a journey, Ted, with the ups and downs that you've experienced, in different areas of the market. Were there any lessons along the way that influenced the approach that you have today?
They're constantly, the lessons are constant. I think one of the things that stuck out with me the most, and I think will probably ring true with investors of any level, especially, in single family rental, is that there's a difference between yields on paper in that you calculate using it like an Excel spreadsheet versus real world yields. And so I think that, we call them paper yields. A lot of times, for people that come from a financial structuring background or something similar, your first inclination is like, oh, I need to go to the high yield properties. And that's great. But I think the thing that is missed very often when people target that segment is the change in expense load that is associated with it. You might be dealing with maybe a lower quality tenant, even though the house, costs less because of probably the neighborhood that it's in. It's still a house. The fixed asset investment isn't that different. It still costs 4 or 5,000, or maybe even 7,000 for an HVAC, maybe 10,000 for a roof. And even though that yield is very high, that lower rent makes it much more difficult to cover those fixed expenses and, potentially, more frequent turnover and things like that. So,
Yeah. Ted, I want to talk a bit about what you are focused on today. What areas of single family are you in, and are there any unique opportunities that you see in there?
yes. So thank you for asking. I'm working to grow an affordable single family rental fund right now. It's a $50 million Regulation D 506C private placement limited to accredited investors. And the opportunity that we're targeting is just outside of the traditional institutional buy box, buying slightly older homes at a discount, rehabbing them to an institutional standard, and making them available for lease to housing choice voucher tenants. So one of the reasons why I think right now is such a great time to be doing that is because it was really twofold. One is that first and foremost is that we're filling a gap in supply of affordable housing to a segment, a segment of potential tenant that needs it. And two, more from an investment standpoint, I think that we're on the front side of the third major capital deployment cycle into single family rental.
Yeah, yeah, that's really exciting. And I know, Ted, that you personally have done a lot of volume in the investing world, which I'm sure we have a lot of listeners that, they want to get there too. What kind of advice do you have for investors who are just starting off and, they want to increase their volume too?
Right. I mean, I say it all the time. I think when you are working in single family, it's depending upon the area you're in. If you're in Southern California, it doesn't really work like this, but a lot of other places in the country, no single deal is going to make or break you. It's really much more about the process and way that you execute.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
On a large volume of transactions that is going to have the biggest effect on the outcome of your investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to the deals that you're doing too, are there any connections or networking that have made a difference for you? And again, it may, like you said, it may not be one deal, but for you, have there been, maybe it's not one connection, but it's, making those multiple connections?
Right. There's several different areas of those, right? So, I mean, I think as we've seen this institutional SFR industry grow, that's been an amazing network to be a part of. There's two different conferences that I go to every year, the IMN SFRs. There's one in Miami in May every year, another one in Scottsdale in December. It's a great accumulation of people in the industry and a great way to learn and just build relationships over the long term. I've definitely benefited from that and love to contribute to that network. Real estate agents, I looking back and knowing how, I see how ignorant I was when, growing up or being new to the industry. I always thought, I think this is really before we saw a lot of things happen in foreclosure. So everything was good. This is probably like early to mid 2000s. And I, for whatever reason, just had it stuck in my head. Oh, if you're an REO agent, that's the lowest tier agent. But it's the exact opposite. The REO agents have so many more, like stronger demands in terms of what they have to do. They're not like just listing houses is probably the smallest like responsibility that they have. They have to, go out and first, establish relationships with asset managers so that they can get the listings. That is a huge business unto its own. Once they get the listings, oftentimes they're executing property preservation and lockouts and vacancy checks and, all of these things all the way through to make sure that that listing, that property is as, the investment and the condition of the home is as sound as possible until that point. If they're able to stick with it all the way through, then they get the opportunity to list the house. And so I think that's been really one of the greatest networks in being involved in single family rental that I have as I view it as an asset, is just having had the opportunity to know and build relationships with so many different REO agents, because they're really they're great agents, but on top of it they're great business people. And then I know I'm told me to keep it short on the stories here, but
Go for
one
it.
final group that I think is really interesting, especially for people that are new to buying houses and want to get started working with institutions or larger volume buyers. It's the groups of wholesalers and bird dogs, right? It's an entirely different business to go direct to consumer or direct to seller to create leads to buy houses than it is to price those houses, than it even is to procure the capital to be able to execute those acquisitions. And so no matter what acquisition platform that you talk to, there's always a need for more leads. And so I think that's just a great place to start. It doesn't really take a lot of capital. You can get a lot of it done with, just elbow grease and determination. I guess as you step into it and you want to create volume in that business, like anything else, you need to invest in marketing and things like that. But I'd say, it doesn't cost anything to go knock on a door. And as long as people can reach out to me, but there's a lot of different acquisition platforms that would love to have that lead and, provide pricing for you.
Hmm. Absolutely. Relationships are everything in this industry. If someone is just starting off and, you said they don't have, a lot of a lot of capital, and they should knock on a door.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
What what would you say in that scenario?
Um, yeah, I mean, go do it. Like the chances are that you're probably going to have to knock on, 100 of them before you get your first opportunity. And, make sure you stretch before, because, you might get chased off a few properties. But, I think that's kind of part of the business. I think as long as you're respectful and honest about your intentions, then I don't see how people can fault you, whether that's the seller or it's the person that may be interested in buying the home from you. They would do it through an assignment, get in the complications there. But yeah, I would think, creating the leads is probably the most difficult part of that. And so starting there and trying to get an angle there is probably one of the best things you can do. And then I think there's a lot of resources to figure out how to monetize that, on the backside.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, Ted, for your markets, you're mainly in California, yes?
I live in California, but we buy basically no real estate in California. It's the yields don't really work here for the most part. With Homestead Affordable Fund One, my fund, our portfolio will be 80% of the portfolio is targeted in Dallas, Atlanta, and Houston, with smaller concentrations tagged for San Antonio and Phoenix. And then probably more going into like a fund two. We do have part of our strategy to purchase in the Inland Empire, California. But yeah, it's tough these days. I think in the downturn, there was a lot of opportunity in California, but it takes a lot more capital to be in business in real estate in California.
Well, for that fund that you're working on and those locations, what kind of opportunities do you see with those properties? What is the strategy with those locations?
I think first and foremost, with the markets that we've selected, we wanted to take as much market risk off the table. I think those are three of the largest MSAs in the country. And so the risk associated purely with the market is taken off the table. I think there's a lot of opportunity for people that are interested in going into, kind of secondary or tertiary markets, but that's not what we're trying to do here. I think once you get to the asset level, really, kind of real estate execution is basically about, market selection, strategy, and execution. So our strategy is, you might call it a value add single family rental play. So, where a lot of people are focused on build to rent these days, where they're buying new construction homes and putting them into rental portfolios, that's very yield driven. For the most part, aside from having a large discount at purchase, there's probably the cap rates and interest rates probably still need to move just a little bit for that strategy to really work. But scattered site, portfolio construction in value add, because we're adding value from our initial rehab activity, that's what makes the strategy work.
So when you say initial rehab, is there kind of like a template for that? It's probably still individualized, but is there, some sort of formula that works?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that came out of the, kind of the rise of the public SFR REITs is a very standardized way that a home should look. So, I think that you have, and I'm not really talking about cosmetic, I'm talking about more like the mechanics. So once a roof gets to be over 12 or 15 years old, it needs to get replaced, especially at acquisitions. Same thing with an HVAC. When it comes to the cosmetics, people talk about hardening the asset. And so that's things like maybe instead of using flat paint, you're using, eggshell, or even, I don't think people are really using, semi-gloss on walls, but, eggshell is probably the furthest you go. So, and the intent there is that when you get to a turn, that you're limiting the cost of needing to repaint. Same thing with like hard surface floors over carpets, hard surface countertops. So there's a pretty well standardized model that people basically adhere to, and that's we're taking that same model. We're just going slightly outside of it in terms of age.
You doing anything to kind of put your own twist on it or, make your property stand out?
Yeah, we're gonna do lime green front doors. No, I think that our thing, our biggest angle is that we're trying to fill supply, where it doesn't exist, of affordable homes.
Mhm. And what made you so interested in affordable housing in particular?
It goes back to what I think one of the biggest benefits of institutional single family rental is, from the get go, is that we're collectively as an industry providing the opportunity for people to live in homes that, don't necessarily have the opportunity to purchase it. And so I think what we're doing is just taking it one step further in expanding that, access to single family homes to people that, that maybe have an even tougher time affording it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Ted, what do you see next on the horizon when it comes to investing? What are you looking to do?
Yeah, I've said it. You probably I have a big enough task ahead of me here with this fund. I think that is, probably first on the horizon, but is I'm, think bigger. I'd love to be involved in a fund two and fund three of Homestead Affordable.
That's awesome. And when it comes to these funds, do you see any hurdles and, what do you anticipate, that you need to do to get there?
It's really all about capital raise. With my background, I'm an operator of real estate. And so the thing that is, slightly different for me here is working to raise capital. I think there's some very interesting opportunities in the market for that. About 10 years ago, there was some changes in regulations with how you are able to or allowed to market private placements. And so, from some degree, I think that's dislocating traditional broker dealer activity. And broker dealers are expensive. They definitely served a place in the market. And I think that a typical path for somebody in a fund one would be to go and engage a broker dealer, but it also costs 5 to 7% to do that. And so that it just makes it it has the effect to shrink the available investment opportunities that work. And so what, the big hurdle and task that we're working to overcome there is trying to go direct to investors, or either through direct marketing or through RAs, registered investment advisors, so that we can bring that investment opportunity without having to saddle the returns with such a huge cost associated with a broker dealer.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ted, before we let you go, if someone wants to reach out, learn more about what you're doing at Homestead Affordable, or they're interested in learning more about the capital funding, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm LinkedIn/Ted Farry, very simple. Our website is also homesteadaffordable.com. I think those are probably the two best ways to find me.
Awesome. Ted, thank you so much for sharing your story, your insights, and your strategies. I know our listeners are going to get so much out of this.
No, thank you for having me. Great to talk with you as well.
And for our listeners here, if you got value from this episode, make sure that you're subscribed to the Real Estate Pro Show. We've got more conversations coming up with operators like Ted who are building fantastic real estate empires. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.